Singapore's fiscal reserves are not impacted by the loss from investing in collapsed crypto firm FTX. Now, that's as the net investment returns contributed from such assets are not tied to individual investments. Finance Minister Lawrence Wong says that Temasek Holdings investments in early-stage companies remain better than the industry average, even after writing off the loss from the FTX investment. Lisha Rodney with this report.
Investment in FTX.
It's understandable that MPs would seek more oversight into investments made with the country's reserves, especially after the collapse of FTX, which Temasek Holdings was invested in. But Finance Minister Lawrence Wong says governance structures in place for such sovereign wealth funds are already more extensive than is typical.
Both Temasek and GIC are subject to the President's oversight of their budgets and key appointments. In Parliament, if there are any questions by members about the performance of the entities, MOF will respond to them as we are doing now. There is therefore no need for additional audit requirements or parliamentary committees. Instead, we should insulate the boards from political pressures.
Mr. Wong, who is also Deputy Prime Minister, outlined how the government sets out risk tolerance limits and monitors the investment entities for diversification. As long-term investors, he says they must operate in the space of new technology and early-stage companies, and risk-taking is an essential part of such investments. Such companies form about 6% of Temasek's overall portfolio.
There will always be new waves of innovation and technology that seek to disrupt the status quo. Some waves will turn out to be hype and fizzle out over time. Other technologies will prove revolutionary and transformational, like the internet.
Earlier this month, FTX filed for bankruptcy after customers withdrew billions of dollars in a matter of days. That's after rival platform Binance cancelled a rescue deal and sold its entire stake in FTX's digital token. It's since been found that at least $1 billion of customer funds have gone missing. Temasek's investment in FTX was worth $275 million. That's 0.09% of its net portfolio value, which stood at 403 billion Singapore dollars as of March this year. Temasek Holdings has written off the investment.
It is disappointing when there is a loss by our investment entities, as in the case of Temasek's investment in FTX. Even more so, because the loss arose from what turned out to be a very badly managed company and from possible fraud and mishandling of customer funds.
Mr. Wong says the loss has also damaged Temasek's reputation. Recognizing this, the fund has issued a comprehensive statement to explain its due diligence process. It's also initiated an internal review by an independent team to study and improve its processes.
As for the broader category of digital payment tokens, Finance Minister Lawrence Wong says there may still be valuable economic uses for those in Singapore, but that will come with tighter regulation. Michelle Teo with this report.
Singapore may be Asia's top financial centre for now, but the competition for economic activity is high, a point one MP raised.
Many financial centres like Dubai and Hong Kong are all aspiring to be the cryptocurrency hub. So we want to ask the DPM whether does the government see hubbing the cryptocurrency trading activities in Singapore as necessary to strengthen our position as a financial centre? And really, what are the possible economic use cases here?
Finance Minister Lawrence Wong stresses that Singapore is not planning to be a hub for crypto activities. Instead, it's taking a more pragmatic approach by exploring applications of the underlying technology.
We are now continuing with pilot projects on payments, on capital markets, on settlements to work out what are the promising use cases for such technologies. That we will continue to do. And within that context, there may be a role for DPT service providers but they will be licensed, and after our consultations, we will want to put in place these tightened measures for the licensed entities.
As for the retail public, the government maintains cryptocurrencies are purely speculative. But it's difficult to use regulation to protect those who wish to invest in it. After all, Singaporeans can simply go overseas or online to do so. In the case of FTX, the platform moved client funds away from its balance sheet, prompting one MP to call for more oversight from the central bank. Mr. Wong says that is in the works.
MES is looking to segregate customers' assets from the company's own assets so that there is a very strict prohibition from lending out of customers' money, which was what happened in the case of FTX. But no amount of regulation can eliminate all the risk. And even if a platform is well run, well managed, the cryptocurrency itself has no intrinsic value. It can go all the way to zero, and people who want to trade in that must be prepared to lose all their money.
Currently, DPT service providers are only regulated by the central bank for money laundering, terrorist financing and technology risks, as in most jurisdictions. A consultation paper on regulation was published last month, and proposals will be finalized after receiving industry and public feedback.
Even with these assurances from the Deputy Prime Minister, parliamentarians had concerns over how Singapore's fiscal reserves are managed, as well as the portfolios of Temasek, GIC and the central bank. 13 MPs raised further questions for Mr. Wong on the role of government in keeping these investment entities accountable.
Despite the failings of the cryptocurrencies, blockchain-based digital infrastructure may still prove to be useful in other aspects. And so may I ask for these investment entities whether they have been or will continue to invest in such companies, and if they have been, how have the investment performance been so far?
Exposure to early stage companies would include investments in digital assets, but it would be diversified to a broad range of different sectors. So if you talk about concerns of a broader fallout, I think it would be relatively contained. Remember, a few months ago, there was a lot of enthusiasm. Even within this House, members were suggesting for MES to move faster. And MES was being criticized for being too slow. So that general enthusiasm, I think, has proven to be overly optimistic.
Under current statutes and regulations, are Temasek, GIC and MES free to invest in anything they want to as long as their own boards or management teams approve them and they fall within the risk tolerance level?
We have put in place a very strong governance process and system where the government is the shareholder. We do not micromanage, we do not decide on investments, we do not prescribe asset classes or assets, but we have a role in appointing board members, senior management, and we hold them accountable to delivering good long-term performance.
What kind of discussion would the government have if it monitors those risks and diversification and feels that they are off?
We're subject to rigorous stress tests to make sure that the overall portfolio, even under these stress tests, does not have significant losses beyond a threshold that we think would be too much. So we monitor, and if indeed the stress test shows that there are too much risk being taken, or a concentration of a particular assets that may lead to some vulnerabilities, then we provide a feedback to the entities, and they have the discretion then to take the necessary actions to adjust.
What thresholds must be crossed before the AGO steps in to audit a Temasek investment or Temasek investment process in a company?
It would be something that we feel has gone wrong within the organization, possibly. There might be negligence, there might be fraud, there might be misconduct. So it has to be of that significant threshold for us to say, look, something is not right within the organization. Let us commission or get the Auditor General to go in and do a proper audit an investigation, and we will not rule out if something like that were to happen.